And if it's morning don't suit me, black woman, I'm gonna drive my bell cow home. Don't your kitchen feel lonesome?
Recording in progress.
Just make sure, Richie, if he comes on, he clicks this button.
You're good to go.
Okay. Time being 7:30, February 15th,
You turn that down, Lauren.
2024. The duly scheduled meeting of the Franklin Zoning Board will come to order. This meeting is being recorded and televised. A listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. The meeting will be held via the Zoom platform. You may also join the meeting on your smartphone by calling 1-929-205-6099. For those looking to view the meeting, it can be viewed live at this time on Comcast 9 or Verizon 29. It is also streaming directly from Franklin's TV's website. Visit franklin.tv and just click on the Town Hall channel. Time being 7:30. Time being 7:30. The hearing for 121 Grove Street, Fairfield Grove Street. Applicant is seeking to build building permit to construct 330 multifamily development. The building permit is denied without a comprehensive permit from the ZBA. Applicants present.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Richard Cornetta on behalf of the applicant, and I believe our team, both civil and traffic, are here.
Okay. Steve Finland on the call by any chance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm here, sir.
Okay. Never. Oh, we don't even have a picture. I can at least. Oh, there we go. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I've been doing a lot of reading. I just never saw you before. But anyway. Okay. Thanks for joining us tonight. All right, Richie, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you stated, this is a continuation of the public hearing, and we do have on the call with our team, both, I believe, our civil consulting engineers as well as traffic. And I certainly would defer to you. I believe that you might be short with your civil peer review group, but so I'll defer to you as to how you'd like to proceed, whether you'd like to go to your peer reviewers first and then have.
Okay, well, let me just make some explanations to somebody who's just turning in for the first time. This has been a proposal for us up on Grove Street. We received a proposal, I think it was November 1st. We had the first public hearing on November 30th. We had a subsequent meeting some date after that. And in the meantime, we've hired peer review. We have a consulting attorney who may be a little bit late. We have an engineering firm to do our peer review. And with that, we've asked them to hire a traffic consultant to do the traffic assessment review of the applicant's proposal. Now, during this time, they've worked diligently between the two. Our engineer has said that they're forthcoming with everything they do. They're quick. He is actually very quick. When they send in answers to his questions, he usually writes his report the same day or if not the next day. There's a couple of little holdouts, nothing that would really affect the project that he was looking for some answers from. I don't know if your crew, Richie, has those answers now or if there's something we're going to do later. There was a lot of back and forth, as it usually is before the meeting. I know other boards want the stuff in, a week before they meet, but because we have such a great design review, review team or peer review team, that their answers are really forthcoming almost immediately after they receive the information. So with that being said, we can go to traffic review. We'll make Steve earn his money tonight. So if you want to speak about the review, I saw your letter. I guess there was 9 topics and there was only, I think, 3 of them that there was a question on or whatever. Maybe you can just read those off, and if Richie, if your traffic guy is there, then maybe they got the answers for him already. I know Joe told me, Mr. Penznola, that time was getting shot and they might have crossed in emails or something. But the last I have is from you, Steve. So.
Yep. Okay, I can go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Stephen Finland. I'm a senior project manager and office manager for Howard Stein Hudson. As the chair mentioned, we were brought on to do a peer review of the traffic study that was done for this project. And like I said, like was said, there's been some back and forth. You know, we received the information, I think, initially on January 12th from the applicant and their team. We provided a letter on January 23rd, which identified the 9 issues that was just mentioned. I can talk a little bit about in a second. We did receive a response back from the applicant on February 8th, which responded to our 9 issues. And then we submitted a follow-up letter on February 14th. And like you said, there were 3 issues that are outstanding at this point. So I can quickly go through those issues, Mr. Chair, if you'd like, or I could talk about the ones that are outstanding. Okay.
Yeah, just the 3 that are outstanding.
Sure. Yeah, so like I said, out of the 9, there was 3 that were remaining. So the first one had to do with the traffic study associated with the trip distribution, the assignment of the proposed vehicles that are be coming to and from the site. We noticed there was a discrepancy in some of the percentages on some of those trip distributions. So we've asked the applicant to revise those numbers. I think it just may have just been a flip of some of the numbers. So we've asked them to revise those and provide any additional or revised analysis that would be required as part of that. The second issue that's outstanding had to do with the number of parking spaces being proposed as part of the site. I think initially we noticed that the traffic study said one number and then the site plan said another number. They came back and said that the number on the site plan is correct, but we were just requesting some additional breakdown of the number of parking spaces associated with each of the buildings being proposed. There was a little bit of concern on our part about how that was being kind of broken up, and we just wanted to make sure that there was going to be enough parking associated with each of the buildings. And then the third and final item had to do with what we identified as transportation demand management, or TDM measures. There was some talk.
We're going to build a 300. Oh yeah, I'm on mute.
Steve, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Some people
No, that's
don't
fine.
mute themselves before they get in here. Who's ever talking in the background, just mute your mic until we ask you if you got a question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The last item had to do with the TDM measures. There was a proposed rideshare pickup drop-off area that was being proposed. And it wasn't clear to us exactly where that was going to be located. So we've asked the applicant and their team just to identify that. And associated with that, we wanted to understand if there's going to be any electric vehicle spaces proposed as part of this development. And if so, where those would be located. So like I said, those are really the 3 outstanding items. There were a couple issues on here, Mr. Chair, that had to do with really, items that we didn't feel needed to be changed, but just something that should be considered as part of the order of conditions once you guys vote on this project or approval. And that had to do with some of the bicycle and pedestrians, bike racks and things like that. So I think you've gotten the letter and I think you saw that all in there. But like I said, at this time.
I got it all. I did see. I did see it. Thank you. Yeah.
And I did have a quick conversation with the traffic engineer yesterday. My understanding is, that first item that we talked about, that I mentioned about the trip distribution and assignment what is being done or has been done, and that'll be included in a formal response. And then we're just waiting to hear on those other 2 items. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Richie, you guys want to respond to any of that, or you just want to wait until you get your letter in?
No, I think we would like to respond. Casey, I don't know if John Shipe is having trouble unmuting.
I think I'm unmuted now, right?
Yeah.
I think it's because there were 2 on here. So, all right, he is unmuted.
And you can only hear me once, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Brian, is Brian McCarthy, are you available to show the drawing that speaks to the distribution parking?
Yeah, yep. Let me see if I can share. I need to be allowed to share. It's disabled at the moment.
But in any event, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, I'm still, can you, Casey, can you?
You should be all set, Brian.
See? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Brian did a calculation.
Can everybody see that plan?
Don't ask me to read any numbers off it, but I can see the plan.
Well, to address this concern, what we did was we looked at how many parking spaces are generally around a pod of one of the buildings.
John, I think you might be talking on two phones, on two things.
I apologize for that.
You had a little bit of an echo.
And can you hear me okay right now?
Yes.
I'm going to have to turn it to Brian. Brian, if you could review this for the team, please.
Yep.
I
So
have
we got.
connectivity issues.
Yep, sure. So we, this plan basically has a chart on here that shows each of the buildings 1 through 5. Building 1, you can see my cursor, building 1 is here. Building 2 is over here to the left. Building 3, building 4, building 5. So the chart shows the number of units in each of the buildings and then the parking spaces located around each of those units, with a parking ratio related to each of those buildings. The clubhouse has 17 spaces around that area that are not included in these ratios here at each building. And then it shows the overall ratio of 1.7 for which includes the clubhouse area. So you can see, building 1's got, a little more, 1.9 ratio, 2 is a 1.7, 3 is a 1.5, 4 is a 1.8, and 5 is a 1.5. So I guess and then we have, as you can see on the plan, we got pedestrian sidewalks circulating all around the site, connecting all these buildings together for pedestrian routes and activity. And so I guess one of the concerns was that building 3 and 5 have the lowest ratio around them. However, there are pedestrian routes to connect to other parking spaces, such as the clubhouse itself, where there's 17 spaces. So building 3, even though it's got a lower ratio right around it, has additional parking available near the clubhouse and pedestrian route over to building 1, which has a higher ratio, 1.9. So there's additional spaces available within about 200 feet or so, 250 feet of each of the buildings. Building 4 and building 5, building 5 has a 1.5 ratio, but building 4 has a higher ratio. So there is, again, these are pretty close together. So if there's a lower number at 5 and we need some spaces over at 4, there's a pedestrian connectivity to those spaces.
Is there a connection between the two parking lots?
Basically, you would come down the drive here to get to the.
Okay. I saw something up in the corner there. I didn't know if I touched it on it.
Our property management team is used to working with tenants to address any parking ratios that need to move one way or the other.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Mr.
Hello?
Chairman, it's Gus Brown, the building.
Yeah, go ahead, Gus.
Hold on one second.
I thought you were all prepared.
There we go. Yeah, I tried. But good evening, everyone. Just a quick comment about what Hancock Associates said about buildings 3 and 4 and the fact that they still have insufficient parking. Has that been remediated somehow yet?
Right. I think that's what we're discussing right now, right?
No, yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
is it,
Yeah.
I mean, Hancock's response was it may be unreasonable to think people are going to park and walk. So have you adjusted that parking count at all, John, or is that still up in the air?
When we did our original layout, we did allocate parking that we thought was appropriate, and then also made sure that there are good pedestrian connections. So we know that across the board, it's a net total of 1.7 spaces per unit. And based on feedback from property management, we also know that sometimes the property management needs to get in and work with people if they are typically finding that, maybe one building has residents that have more than one car, and they'll work with them. But otherwise, we know this would be our issue to manage on site and work with our tenants. And we're also comfortable within a couple 100 feet, the few tenants that might possibly feel that, that there's not a parking space available. There's certainly another one within 100 feet or two for the few people in the few instances that we run across that. So we're very comfortable we can manage this.
And that's a waiver you're going to be asking for, correct?
The net total parking spaces per unit is one of the waivers.
So, as my job, I get these phone calls too. So just so you're aware, if you can mitigate that somehow to give those two buildings a little bit more parking, I would appreciate it.
We can take a look at it, but otherwise, I hear exactly what you're saying, Gus. We certainly don't want our tenants not being happy. Certainly to the point where if they talk to property management and it can't be issued, we don't want them bothering you. We can take a look at it. I don't see any options right now, but we can also run this through property management and make sure that they take a concerted look at this. Possibly when people are renting, ask them how many cars they plan to have, something like that. But should be a manageable issue on our end. But I hear what you're saying. Thank you. Yeah. Yep.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Okay.
For now.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't, I'm sure that you could pick up a parking spot here or there, or whatever, if you needed to. But these buildings, they're all, you can access right around the whole building, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's usually unusual. People don't want to do that. They only want to provide something to the front. And I'm sure that might have come from the fire department or just in your history of doing these things. It's probably better off to get around the whole building than just one side or the other. So, but anyway, okay.
Yeah, you're right, Mr. Chairman. I mean, what we've learned is, convenience for our customers and the tenants and the residents that live there. It's convenience.
Okay. Where did we leave off?
I think if Scott is here, Scott might briefly speak to one of the questions about the trip distribution that Steve mentioned. Otherwise, I believe the only other outstanding question was a question about electric vehicle charging stations. We have found that, of course, electric vehicle charging stations is a new technology. It's growing every time we do a project. We really just wait until the very last minute to see what the industry is dictating. And we end up providing what property management tells us is the right number of electric vehicle charging stations on a property. So a lot of the spaces that you see here will eventually be set up for EV charging. And I know there was a question about, why don't we stop there? Any questions on that particular topic?
I don't hear any. Go ahead, John.
And then I think there was a question about how Uber or Lyft drivers would be managed. Again, we feel that there's ample parking that when somebody shows up, normally there's going to be a space for them to park if they're not just live parking along the curb. So there should be plenty of places for Uber or Lyft to be. And then again, we have a very stringent property management team. They work with all of our tenants, and if there's ever an issue as to where an Uber or Lyft driver is parking, our property management team can work with them, as well as having the on-site traffic demand management team, a person assigned for those duties to help people with not just Uber and Lyft, but how and what public transportation options are available in the area. So we're pretty comfortable with that concern.
John, do you typically have somebody that lives on site, or how is it manned? How many hours a day?
Yeah, there's at least one person on site 24 hours a day. And typically at least one of our property management staff actually live on site in one of the units.
Okay.
As that's not always the case, but almost always, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think we answered the 3 questions that hadn't been resolved yet. So.
Well, then, Mr. Chairman, I would like to say thank you to Joe Pesnola and his team, and as well as our civil engineer. I'll echo what Joe said. The civil engineers both worked very well together, and I believe, as Joe said in his letter, closed out all of their concerns and issues. We believe this is a better project because of that, and there were some changes that were made to the stormwater management system. So, but we thank the whole team for that.
Yeah, there was a small email that came today. It wasn't even a memo. It was just in an email. It was 3 or 4 things that, to be worked out. But like he said, it was getting close to the meeting time, and he didn't think he'd be able to get it done, and he knew he wasn't going to be here tonight. So that's why we'll end up continuing this meeting on, so make sure we get everything squared away. But Mark, welcome back from your trip. You're on. Do you have anything you want to add?
Hang on. There you go, Mr. Chairman. Good evening.
Hi.
I have another email from Joe that was from 7:09 this morning, in which he raised a couple of issues about paying for multi-use trail construction and a municipal sewer pump station analysis and a frequency of trees that he raised as a couple of issues. Do you want to deal with those on camera? Would you like me to call Attorney Cornetta, or would you like me to just, you want to have it out now or later?
Well, he's not here, so I figured we were going to continue this until March, whatever I had down for the date, 15th, I think it is. Okay. So, I mean, they don't seem to be overwhelming problems. A couple of extra trees, instead of being every 50 feet, they wanted them 70 feet or whatever it was. I didn't think that was a big deal. Yeah, I can't find. I know he sent me the same email this morning. I just can't locate it right now. But I didn't think that there was anything outstanding there that couldn't be resolved.
Why don't I take advantage of the downtime between this meeting and the next meeting to talk to Attorney Cornetta, and we'll see if we can't report back to you.
Okay. All right. All right, Richie, John, anything else?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman. Thanks. Richie?
I do not either. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Let me just go around to the board in case they have any outstanding questions or comments. Megan, any questions or comments?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Archie?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple. I'm wondering if we have any exterior elevations that we can look at and see what this building looks like. I'm looking through the plan set that was provided, and there's 2 different scenarios, I guess, here. Did we settle upon what the building will look like on the outside?
They've sent this in the packet to begin with. There's a couple of them that I was going through today.
Yeah, but there's 2 different types, so I'm wondering.
No, I don't think they made a presentation exactly what they were. Well, I guess I don't know which one you're looking at. That's the problem. But from my understanding, John, they're going to be flat roofs, so you can hide some of the utilities up there or something.
They are going to be flat roofs, yes.
Yeah, there was a question about peaks and how high they were, if the fire truck could reach them and everything else. So you kind of took off that, even though nobody's going to go up to the peak of the roof to try to get somebody off. I don't know. How high are these buildings on the average? 50, 60 feet?
57 feet.
57 feet. Yeah. So if this was an industrial building, they'd be allowed by right. I think you can go 60 feet.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
John, is that 57 to the gutter line? It's a little bit higher than that, correct? The parapet?
Yeah, Gus, yeah, that's a good question. And if I could share my screen, I can answer it exactly. Host disabled parent screen sharing. But in any event, screen share. Yeah, we included, so you can see this now, right?
Yeah, it's coming up. It's not on yet. There we go. Yep, that's what I remember seeing.
So, Gus, we asked for a waiver for a little bit more than was necessary. But we also were cognizant that the zoning bylaw definition includes, I think it's the average grade around the perimeter of the building. So if final grading were to drop off, in some cases, there's a little bit of a slope behind a building. You know, we would want to be mindful of that because it could take what was 57 feet tall and suddenly make it, you know, 60 or 62 feet tall. So in our waiver request, we're going to eventually clarify that we hope that the waiver is to acknowledge that the buildings are allowed to be constructed as more specifically described and defined, and that would be from the floor elevation to the roof line, and it's 57 feet. On my screen, Gus, you can see that there is a short section, an ornamental feature that gives it some relief, both horizontally and vertically, and that sticks up about 4.7 feet. And so that's why we have a height drawn on the left-hand side of a little over 62 in total.
Okay. Will that grade change and increase that 62, John, at all, do you think, as far as the average grade?
Yeah, I think that some of these buildings around the perimeter, we might find that because of the way the grade slopes away, that by the zoning bylaw definition, and Gus, I mean, I thank you. You educated me on this on our Dean Avenue project, so Brian and I were both very cognizant of it. That 62 could increase based on the grading. It could decrease it as well. It's not substantial, and as you know, our primary places where that might occur are going to be back behind the building that's closer to Grove Street.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
so my other question would be the gated emergency access. Is that going to be large enough for a fire ladder truck to get through in it?
Yeah, I can answer that. It is. And similar to the Dean Avenue project, we have, we know the authority of the fire department. We've met with the fire chief. We do have a letter from the chief from a while back. We recently reached out to the chief just to make sure that they are, fully aware. The plan didn't change, just minor tweaks. But yes, we know the size of the fire truck, and we have included an auto turn drawing that shows how that truck can circulate around the site as well as through the emergency access. And emergency access that, in fact, the fire chief specifically asked for and we added to the plan. So I think we're comfortable with that.
All right, I'm good with questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Philip, any questions, comments?
No, as long as they handle Gus, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, Brown knows it. But, yeah. But
I'd
anyway,
I'd echo that Gus is also a very important person.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's why he's here. I heard somebody laughing in the background, but hey, whatever. All right. I mean, obviously, my questions get answered almost weekly here or daily when all these emails come back and forth. So, the only thing I couldn't find, because you provided so many plans, that the traffic assessment was like 200 or 300 pages. The original application was 300 pages or something like that too. So I'm sure that those diagrams that you just had are in there. I can't find them all. I can't bring them all up on the screen at one time. But and I actually had them out so that I could just zip from one to the other, you know. But I even got stormwater management up there that we're not going to talk about tonight. But I think you're all set with all of that stuff. I don't think there's been any issues with any of that, correct?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Gus.
Sorry to interrupt you. I'd like to talk about a couple things. I know you just brought up this stormwater management, but if I can back up a minute about a couple things that were talked about with the fire department just now. Are they all set? As I look through some of these multiple pages I have, it looked like there was a couple things you had to get back to the fire department on, John. If that's been done, that's an error on my part, but Hancock Associates, Hancock Associates said that on 2/12/24, they've submitted copies to the fire department for review on full-size copies of the revised site plan. And it had to do with, I think, some of the mitigation around the property as well, and some of the changes we made. So can you guys just follow up on that and make sure that they're happy with everything that you talked about in this report from Hancock Associates?
We will, Gus, and I can assure you, you know, we likewise, we know that almost regardless of what we decide in this permitting process, the fire department is somebody that can always raise these questions at a later date. So we want to, it's in our best interest, and we know it, and we'll wrap them up now.
Okay. And then Vanessa had given a report that had to do with the traffic early on. I don't have a date on this report, but one of the transportation demand management plans included something that will be like a welcome packet for the residents, and it details public transportation, bicycle use, micro-mobility devices, walking alternatives, and all of that should be available to the commuter for options. So I know we, might be a little premature to talk about this right now. I don't want to make this meeting go any further than it should, but I think there's some vernacular that needs to be talked about as far as those measures are concerned. And I don't want to catch you off guard, John, but has anything been said or talked about as far as that is concerned? I know out front has no sidewalks. Maybe, I don't know if it's appropriate at this time to talk about it, or there should be a little bit of time to get back to us with something like that, but it's on my mind, and you don't have to answer yet. And then as far as the waivers are concerned, with what DPW's letter entailed and also Concom's letters entailed, I don't know if you got the conservation letter from the board on from February 8th yet. I don't want to hit you with that if you haven't read all that yet about their recommendations as far as you requesting the waivers you did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
we have.
Again, I don't want to catch you off guard, but if you want to talk about it, I'm more than welcome. I have a couple notes. If you want to talk about it, we can right now.
Well, I can tell you that the Conservation Commission has been great to work with, and we are aware of their comment letter. I know that there were a few items where they did actually acknowledge that the waiver is something that they would support. There are others that they did not support. I think in the coming, before the next meeting, it would be a good idea, and we could probably discuss more specifics on the waivers. I believe that based on the feedback from the town engineer as well as the Conservation Commission, and based on our final design, we are likely to be able to say that we can withdraw some of the requests for the waivers. Most important to us will be the waivers that are solely the authority of the zoning board, that have the authority to grant a waiver from something like the more constricting requirements, the buffers, the wetland, the local bylaw for buffer zone setbacks. As we've said, we want to make sure that we comply, and we will comply 100% with the Wetlands Protection Act. But this particular site has a few waivers necessary from the local bylaw relative to work in certain buffer zones.
With that said, after speaking with the agent and reading that letter, I know there's some there's an opening to speak with the vice chair at some point, where that forum is done, and it obviously can't violate the open meeting law. Where that forum can be talked about legally, I'm all ears. There's attorneys in the room right now that know exactly how we should go about that part, but I appreciate what you just said. That's very helpful. I know the site is a tough site. I know some of the areas you wanted to possibly get closer than the 25 feet. But after speaking with the agent today, there is some mitigation as far as structures are concerned, that you could put these structures closer than the 25 feet. So just as long as you know there's an opening for all of this and everyone's willing to work with you, but again, it's a tough site and the materials are difficult, and we just want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, thank you, Gus, and we'll continue to work with the town on all of those things.
Gus, I got a question for you. I think I've brought this up before. As you know, most 40B sites, they have some peculiar issues to each site. And in that is when they come to the ZBA, they don't ask us for relief from the Wetlands Protection Act. They only ask for relief from the local bylaws that may be a little bit more stringent than the state bylaws. My question's always been is, what project, and you've been around a long time, and I think I know what the answer is, but and all the times that we've granted anybody waivers from the particular wetland bylaws that are peculiar to the town of Franklin, how much natural environmental danger have we put the town in since we've done that? There's not one in my mind that I can say that we've ever had a problem with.
I have never had one.
Okay, I just want that out there, that that these projects, they come for us, and they come, and the reason why they come to the ZBA is because they're affecting the affordable housing stock in the town of Franklin. They're doing something for the town. As far as the affordable housing stock goes, some people might not think this is doing anything for the town, but that's why we have the ability to relieve some of the local regulations. We're not trying to, kill the turtles or the lizards or whatever's living there. But, my mind, and I've been doing this a long time, we haven't had any one of these projects that has had any problem with hurting the environment during construction. So with that being said, you got that out there anyway, like you were supposed to. There was a letter from Van Ness that came on I don't know if you got it or not, February 8th, 2024, asking some of those, maybe some of the questions that you had. Like I said, some of the stuff's been coming hot and heavy in the last week, so you might not see it all, but like I said,
I have that one.
Getting down to, and I don't know if that speaks to the questions that you had or not. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But
I think it's really got to do with the waivers, and I'm satisfied with what John said to me. Of course, I'm not a voting member in any of these boards, but that you're not going to you're going to look at the waivers, and didn't sound like you were going to ask for every one that I see that have been talked about in some of the correspondence that I've got.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mark, you want to add in on any of that?
Chairman, I think there's a time that we'll go through the waiver recommendations from the Conservation Commission. The board can discuss them and decide what they want to do. I would have to say that, it's the Concom has jurisdiction over the local wetlands bylaw. They zealously guard that jurisdiction. Likely the board will have to make a compromise here or there, or hear from the Conservation Commission as to why they should not compromise. We'll get there when we get there. That's usually
Okay.
one of the last things we do is the waiver list, and I'm aware that there's 8 pages to it. So,
Well, some of the things that I know that they maybe they straddle both sides. Maybe I've heard some waivers that have been requested from the Concom that I don't even think they knew they had the right to, that they had to waive. That's just my take on it. But anyway, I'm sure we'll get through it as we always do.
I think there are a lot of open questions in the Hancock memo that I hope everybody's aware of them. I'm just gonna, for the record, I'm just gonna indicate, that we're gonna need answers to some of these things. Site layout question, comment L1 has a fire department issue. L2 has a snow storage issue that needs to be resolved. It looks like the final HA comment, G3, has impact to wetlands question and Concom deference. There's a question about U2, on-call sewer consultant to tell us what's going to happen to the treatment facility. I think has anybody looked at that in the sense of the meeting schedule?
I can speak to that if you'd like, Mr. Chairman.
Well, let me finish the list and then we can come back. I'm almost done. And that may be the last one. No, there's a condition for structural engineering. I don't assume that's going to meet with an objection. That's it. Go ahead.
Yeah. And by the way, Mark, the February 12th is the last version of the memo from Hancock, and it had gone back and forth between Joe and Brian McCarthy. And I thank Joe for closing out. At the end of a lot of the comments, he has written, Hancock is satisfied with this response. I don't.
Yep.
So you're right. A few of those items Joe had mentioned relative to sanitary sewer. In talking with the town engineer, Mike Maglio, we were made aware early on that very similar to the project that we did on Dean Avenue, there could be a concern with the flow in the wastewater system, downgrading of the property. It may necessitate some mitigation of some sort, some improvements. On Dean Avenue, we actually constructed a tank on the property and stored wastewater, and it pumps at night, off hours. But what Mike told me earlier this week by email, and I think Gus was included in that conversation, we're going to wait and see what the town's consultant says after they study this. And Mike is going to initiate that study now. So we'll get some feedback from the town's consultant as to what the recommendations are, and then we can discuss what happens after that. So we're aware.
I'd love to include those if in the approval, if at all, of the permit, so that we are all on the same page going forward. So that's just a timing question.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that we can get some clarity on that before we're done this permitting process.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, I don't see any of that in that last letter that I got from Joe. Maybe some of it. I see the thing about the municipal sewer pump station. Disagreement about the frequency of trees across the front of the parking lot, building 3. on Grove Street, you know, he thinks they should be 30 feet. They got them spread 54 feet apart. So well, I don't know how many feet that is, but can't be talking more than 10, 15 trees. The developer's not committed to paying for any multi-use construction across the frontage. Not sure that anybody proposed that. I know there's an easement, or not an easement, but there's a pathway up in the back of your property, John, that connects the state forest from one side to the other.
And when we laid out the property, when we laid out the design, we tried to make sure there was good pedestrian connectivity on site between some of the buildings, as well as a nice meandering walkway across the wetlands, which again is definitely Conservation Commission purview. But we do also have a trail on site that connects to the existing trails in the state forest. And if that's okay with everybody, you know, we would like to do that.
Doesn't go through any wetlands, does it?
Anywhere there is raised boardwalks that we're proposing across.
No, but I mean up in the back, that piece that connects the two pieces. No, okay.
No, it doesn't. Right.
And the other question was buildings 3 and 4. We talked about the parking ratio already. So, I mean, there's 4 things here that Joe's got left.
Well, I pulled some of those things out of the larger report that he filed with you on the 13th or the 12th.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that just came out today. So evidently he told me that they had been in communication, but with the meeting being so close that there wasn't any time to put it in a memo. So I'm sure that we'll get that back at that after. But anyway.
If I could just,
all right, let me open it up. I'm sorry.
So Brian McCarthy,
yeah,
with RJ Collins. So I don't know, Mark, if you got my response. I did do a response to Hancock's February 12th memo and our letter. So I did do a response to that, and that's what triggered Joe's email of February the 14th that the chairman's referencing that has 4 items on it. So
I'll go back and look on the website to make sure that I pulled that down. I'm sure Casey put it up if it's available.
Yeah, you're copied on his email to me. So you got it, Brian McCarthy got it, John got it, you got it, I got it.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so, and there's a couple of attachments down there that I would assume that's what Mr. McCarthy's talking about, stormwater report and the ZBA revised submittal plan set. So, so other than with that in there, with that being on the email, that's what Joe said. There's a very short list of, stuff. I guess probably the most important being the analysis of the municipal sewer pump station downgrade into the property. So that's the way I see it. Anyway, with all that being said, is there any studio audience or anybody on Zoom that would like to ask a question or have a comment?
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to let Ellen speak.
Okay. Ellen.
Hi, thanks. Ellen Welch, 6 Bubbling Brook Drive.
Yep.
This is actually, I just have a few questions, and I apologize if I'm coming in towards the end or the middle, but I'm assuming this project has yet been approved by the town, and I'm assuming it first needs to be approved by planning?
No, you're wrong. It's a comprehensive permit that goes directly to the ZBA. The ZBA acts as the planning board.
Okay, so it hasn't been approved yet, right?
We're in the process of having hearings.
Thank you. So I guess as a resident, I'm concerned about the burden on schools, water, wastewater, and public safety. And I think one thing that I'm concerned about too is the gentleman spoke about the parking spaces, 1.7 spaces per unit. Do we have a breakout of how many 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and possibly 3-bedroom units there'll be at this particular project?
John?
It is included in the materials that we submitted, Mr. Chairman.
No, I know. I didn't know if you had it off the top of your head. I know there's got to have a certain amount of 3 bedrooms. The state requires it, and then 2s and 1s.
Yeah, I can find that information. If you want to
The 3-bedroom requirement is 10%, Mr. Chairman.
No, I know that.
No, I'm just telling the audience.
Yeah.
Through you.
Yeah.
So I got to be honest with you. I live in a house in Franklin. My taxes are probably close to 10,000. So I don't know what the average rental unit is. I'm going to say it's over $2,000, but maybe I'm wrong. But I think if a rental unit is close to 2,000, I find it very difficult that one person in a unit can afford that. I would think that most units need two incomes to support those units. I don't think you have enough for parking. First off. Second of all, as I mentioned, I'm extremely concerned about the burden on schools. Do we have any idea how many, and I think this looks like a family complex, how many children we're anticipating entering into our school system?
Can I address that, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Matt.
The Housing Appeals Committee has ruled that the impact on local schools is not a local concern to be addressed under the Chapter 40B process. So it is what it is. It's useful to know how many children are projected to join the public school system because the public school system needs to plan, but it cannot be used as a grounds for denial of the project. And if the applicant can provide an estimate, there are plenty of people out there who do that sort of work. It is something that obviously the school department would appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And what about affordable units? How many affordable units will be at this particular property? And do we have any idea what the income threshold or the amount, a monthly cost per month will be for those affordable units?
Is this a moderate income project, Attorney Cornetta?
Yes, it is.
So 25% of the units will be affordable, and the rental prices of the units will be based on a formula with 30% of the household income devoted to shelter costs, and it's adjusted for household size. So there will be 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. Each of those has a different rate. But the basic presumption is that the tenants will be moderate income. That's 70 to 80% of area median income adjusted for household size, and then 30% of that for shelter costs. These are statistics that are derived from HUD and now what is called EOHLC, formerly DHCD. There's no guesswork. It is what it is. I don't know the numbers, though. Maybe they know the numbers.
And I'm not sure if you answer this, but is those units, do existing Franklin residents have some sort of better chance of getting those units than perhaps somebody that lives outside of Franklin?
It has been the custom of the board to put a preference, a local preference of 70% of the affordable units in the comprehensive permit that's subject to federal housing laws. But that's been our standard position in all the comp permits I've helped the board with.
Thank you. And I'd love to hear from the board. Do you feel that we need an additional project like this in Franklin?
I can give you a little history on this piece of property, just off the top of my head. Back in around 2006, there was a similar proposal that came. At the same time, there was a proposal on the other side of town. I don't know how many units they were proposing back then, but it was a considerable amount. At the time, the town administrator really wanted the project down on off of Lincoln Street. I think it's called Franklin Heights, because that was around the time that the town acquired Dacey's Field down there, and they wanted the developer was proposing some upgrades to the area that was going to, I forget what there was a dollar figure attached to it, something like $450,000 or something like that. So that project was approved. And when that one was approved, this one got turned down. The applicants filed an appeal, but I don't know if I always thought it was because of the economy at the time wasn't that good that they never continued on with it. The property's been for sale for as long as I can remember. It's zoned industrial, even with all the uptick in industrial properties before COVID. Nobody was able to purchase it and develop it for an industrial use that made any sense. So here we are 15, 16 years later. These developers have come in. They did another project in town. They like working in Franklin. And their other project, by the way, was market rate, wasn't affordable. This one here, they decided to go the affordable route, and that's where we are. Any other questions?
Yes.
Okay, just identify yourself, please.
Sure. My name is Lisa Gately. I'm a resident of Franklin. You were mentioning there is parking for 574 cars at this proposed multifamily. Living on this side of Franklin, I know for a fact that Grove Street and King Street, that light can be a very long wait on the best of days. You also have the rail trail not too far from this proposed site. That is a crosswalk there. There's no light there. I'm wondering, this is just one of the things I'm wondering. There's a condo unit not too far down from the rail trail that I have friends at. It's very difficult to get in and out of that condo development and the YMCA. With this many more cars coming on Grove Street, I'm wondering how they're going to manage. I did read somewhere there's an assumption that Grove Street has ample reserve capacity to accommodate the additional traffic. I have to tell you, in all honesty, I find that very hard to believe. And I'm also wondering, because this is being built with, and I'm not sure I know the correct terms, near a railway station, and we're hoping people are going to be taking those trains into wherever they have to go. Where is the parking for those cars? Because I have been there many times where there's almost no parking available. So just the parking alone and traffic on Grove Street, which leads to King Street, I find that really hard to believe that we can have the capacity to handle that kind of traffic. And I was wondering if you could address that. That's one of my concerns.
Well, first of all, we don't control parking at the train station. If there's not enough room there, and from my understanding, ridership is down on the T. So maybe it's not full all the time anymore. I don't know that because I don't ride the T. It's just one or two stations in Franklin. This project, in my mind, is in a great location because it's Grove Street to 140 to 495. If people are going to work out of town, people that might work in Boston might go up to the Mass Pike, go in that way. Other people might go out. If you're going to go out, if I lived there and I was going to go out to Washington Street, and if I got the Washington Street light and was busy every day, up until about a year or two ago, there was no light there. They put a light in. Now it's controlled traffic. So you know you're going to move sooner or later. I've been up there before the light was there. You could wait a long time because there was traffic coming both ways on Washington Street. You couldn't get out. Now it's a controlled light. So at least you're going to have at least you're going to have time and safe time to get out because there's going to be, I don't know if there's a left-hand turn lane off of Grove Street or not, but you know, there's two lanes there, one to turn left and one to go right. So I got to think that that's helped out the traffic. We've had traffic engineers. We had, you know, the people that work for the developers. They're considered one of the best in the state. And it's the opinion of our attorney that the one we use is the second best in the state. But these other guys are the first. If you had to consider who was one and who was two, you know, our peer review was two. They list intersections by letters, you know, how travel they are. I haven't heard anybody say anything, and I haven't got anything. Steve, you're still on the call?
Yeah, I'm here, Mr. Chair.
You know, I mean, you did a peer review. I know you didn't do the whole traffic study, but is there any problem areas that you see in this? I mean, I didn't see any in the report. So,
no,
other than the fact that somebody flipped some numbers the wrong way at 140 in Beaver.
Yeah, we looked at all the analysis that was included in the traffic study. I know Scott Thornton's on from Vanasta, the applicant's traffic engineer too. So they did a thorough traffic analysis for all conditions here, and provided all the level of service and how operations are going to be. And from our perspective, from what we were reviewed, we didn't see anything that looked out of the ordinary.
Okay.
So is there a way to see this traffic analysis? Because I know many people use that rail trail. This is just a minor thing on Grove Street. And it's a wonderful thing that we're very fortunate to have in this town. And that's also a parking lot that's frequently full. And I can't imagine how people are gonna just cross the street there to get to the other side with that much increased traffic. Is there a way to see these traffic reports that are being generated?
Yeah, they're all public knowledge.
They are.
All you gotta do is go on the website and go to the ZBA and pull up 121 Grove Street. They should all be up so that you can see them.
See the traffic report. Okay. All right. And
just before you go to look at it, so you're not overwhelmed, the original traffic report has something like 200 and something pages in.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
I do.
yeah.
And I appreciate the fact that you do have a Zoom meeting. This is my second point, but is it possible to have it a hybrid meeting? I know a couple people that I know that it is being televised on the local station, but is it possible to come into the town hall and go to a meeting there? Would that be a possibility?
Not right now.
No?
No.
For the next meeting, maybe? Or
No.
not? No?
No. March of 2025.
Wow. Okay. All right. Can I ask why? Or
Because that's what Mark might be able to answer that.
I'm sure that one of the justifications for it is that COVID hasn't gone away and the public health and safety is better served perhaps by having a hybrid meeting.
But didn't somebody extend the time to do it in the
Oh, yeah,
the
you're
governor?
right. It is March 2025. And my bet is that it'll be extended again. So,
Yeah, I think so too. I'm sure that the people, the legislatures that live out in the western part of the state probably like it too.
let's put it this way. I'm a land court lawyer and I have not appeared live in land court since March 13th, 2020.
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just figured the town hall's open, so okay.
When I got to tell you, we probably get more participation here than we do when we did when we were in the town hall.
Right.
I mean,
No.
listen, when Zoom first came out, you wouldn't have found anybody more opposed to it than me. But I love it now. It's the best thing that ever came along.
Yeah, I just think it would be nice to have both, the Zoom as well. That's all. That's my opinion. I know a couple other people that felt the same way, but
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, Betsy.
Betsy?
Betsy, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I was unmuted. I must have hit the button. Betsy Fitchell, I am a Benjamin's Landing resident. So just up the street about quarter of a mile.
I mean, I figure it more like a half a mile, but you're probably right.
I think actually it was 0.3.
Okay.
Yes. Just a couple of concerns and questions. And I know that these issues have been brought up because I read the mass housing eligibility letter. The town has brought up concerns about the heavy traffic on Grove Street. I can just tell you, as somebody who travels Grove Street on a daily basis, coming left out of our driveway is going to be nearly impossible with you were adding 330 units just a quarter of a mile down the street. Has there been have you asked the developer to add sidewalks or contribute funds into the town's sidewalk fund?
Gus, you still on the
Mr.
call?
Chairman, thank you. Betsy, yes, we have talked about this. And with this not getting approved tonight and the next meeting being in March, that will take place prior to, I'm sure of it. And the final outcome, I don't have that answer for you. I know what you mean. It is difficult to get out of some of those roads over by the Y.
Right.
And it probably has to do with, you know, a little bit of the speed as well. So we're going to look at all those indicators that maybe make us ask and request some sort of traffic calming. But I don't have the particulars right now. That's really got to do with the town engineer and the proponent and me as well.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that
I think sidewalks on Grove Street would be a great asset to our neighborhoods.
Yeah, there's many things that the town has done over the years, and I haven't really been a part of it as far as the sidewalks and so forth. But that narrowing the roads sometimes help. Sometimes some of the islands that have been put in slow things down as well. And it's heavily traveled with truck traffic as well. And it's just I think it's a given that something has to be done.
Right. It's a tough road to walk on. So especially walking down to the Beaver Street, the rec complex, I think sidewalks would be, just asking at least asking the developer to provide funds into our sidewalk fund, I think would be a great idea.
Even before this project, if it goes through, I wouldn't walk on that road.
I have. It's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
People, speed and a lot of tractor trailer trucks. So it's pretty frightening.
It's a cut through, no doubt.
Yeah, exactly. I think the only other question was, I'm very concerned about the height of the buildings. 5 stories in this area is quite large. Have you asked the developer to maybe scale the buildings down to, 3 stories or even 4 stories? I just feel like 5-story buildings are really high in this area.
I have a comment.
I got a question for Gus. I got a question for Gus. How big is the building across the street, Key Boston? That's got to be 50, 60 feet, ain't it? The warehouse?
I don't know if it's quite that high, but
it's high.
Certainly Dell Computer is all of that.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about something in the area there, that Key Boston building. I don't know how big it is. I know it's a warehouse. I know it's pretty big. It might not be 50 or 60 feet tall, but got to be at least 40, 45, I think. But so these buildings are maybe another 10 feet higher, but.
Yeah, it's been a concern, Betsy. There's no doubt about it. I know some of the topography is challenging out there. Before the night ends, I'm going to make a comment about the amount of units. So it's, I'm not a voting member, but I certainly put my input in.
Right. I think it's a good project. I understand the need for affordable housing in our communities. I work in municipal government in a nearby town, so I'm very familiar with 40B projects and the need for affordable housing. So I think it's a good project. I'd like to see it scaled down a little bit. I just think 330 units is a lot.
I recognize the name now. I just don't know which town you're in, but you don't have to say.
I think you can figure it out.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, Betsy, these things have been discussed right along from the get-go. When the town was lucky enough to get a grant for, to do the upgrades up at Washington King, it had the ability to run the sidewalk, I think, down to Kenwood Circle, somewhere around that, or where the local brewery is there. There's a place so there was an opportunity, or there may be an opportunity to extend the sidewalk down. Obviously, the developers can't go on town property, and they probably could if the town gave permission, but I don't think the developers want to do that. I think there's a certain amount of money that they can probably expend towards, much the same as they did when they helped the town out when they built the project down off of D now. There was a lot of upgrades to the water system, the roadway, and the drainage and everything else, even though it didn't help them out on the first storm that came through after they built the project there. But after that, after they got it all paved and everything worked out fine. But, you know, so they're not, you know, they're not negligent in their attempts to, you know, help out the town. They did it in the past, and I know they've offered to do it now, but it's just a matter of getting everybody on the same page. So.
Well, thank you for your time. I apologize. I'm just finding out about this project. So I'm coming a little bit late to the game, so I'm sure that most of my comments have already been addressed.
Yeah. To be honest with you, with the lack of residents close by, this is probably the one project where we haven't had any residential abutters, and I can't remember when, you know, so.
Like I said,
anyway.
a good project. I think it's a good spot for it, in location to the T station. So I'll look forward to watching this unfold.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, Ellen's hand is raised again.
Ellen? Or maybe it never went down?
No, I did. Sorry.
Okay.
Just one quick question. So I
Okay.
also work for a local municipality as well. And I just wanted to comment on the in-person meetings. I think you should take an opportunity to look at what other ZBA boards are doing in the area. And I know the town administrator is on this call. Everyone is back doing in-person meetings. And I would ask that you might consider as well doing in-person meetings. You have 36 people Zoom. That is incredible. And kudos to you for having so many people. But people want to get back to normalcy. And the governor did not say we know that we should have in-person meetings, and Zoom should be a viable option until 2025. So I would like to see Franklin opening up their meetings to in-person, and let's getting back to normalcy. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Richie, anything to close? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gus. I know you've got some other things you want.
Mr. Chairman, I believe Roberta Trahan has her hand up. So
Okay.
you're muted.
Yeah, just did it. Thank you very much, Gus. Roberta Trahan, 1 Green Street in Franklin. I follow most of these meetings as well as all of the others in town. And although I do have some concerns for this project, right now my concern is to follow up on what Ellen said. Every other board, every other committee, every other council has resumed in-person meetings. We have it hybrid for a reason. If you feel uncomfortable because of COVID, perhaps you have a cold, whatever the reason, you can either wear a mask or attend hybrid. We do get a lot of people coming in on hybrid, and it's a great thing. And there's no reason why this board can't do it as well. However, I think there's a reason for it, but I'm not sure that any of you on the ZBA are willing to say what that reason is. Thank you very much. I do hope we consider going back in person for all boards, including the ZBA. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Gus.
One more with the hand up.
Oh,
Me, Verna? I don't have my name up there, but I'm Verna O'Brien, and I am a resident in the area. So I did want to discuss or express a concern about property values and the impact of property values if this multi-housing unit goes up. Has that been assessed at all?
We don't look at that.
Ever?
No.
Well, there was, Mr. Chairman, if I can help out a bit here, there was a claim in an Andover case called Standerwick versus ZBA of Andover. You can Google it. Standerwick is just like it sounds, Standerwick. The neighbors alleged that the proximity of the 40B would result in diminution of property values, and the Supreme Judicial Court ruled that property values are not an injury. Diminution of property values are not an injury protected by the 40B statute. So that's the lay of the land there.
And then my other question is, to what extent does community input help drive the decisioning, and where are the opportunities to weigh in? Are there, like, is this decided? Is it a done deal? Or can the community weigh in to influence the decision?
You're here now. You took the time to join the meeting. You know, you can weigh in now if you want.
Okay.
Or you can come back at another meeting.
So how frequently do the meet? It's monthly meetings?
No,
So
we
every month
schedule
would be-
we schedule every 2 weeks. But we don't have anything. We haven't had a lot of applications lately. The next application we have other than this is on, I think it's going to be on March 14th. So we're just going to move this over to March 14th.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right, Gus, we through?
I have a couple more things to say.
Okay.
John, to John Shipe. John, part of that's in a water resource district, of the front apron, I believe. Just make sure just make sure you look at that. I don't know if anything needs to be changed on the impervious, but just take a peek at that.
We know that there's a really small portion, and we're not doing any work in that area.
Okay.
But we'll double check it as well, Gus. Thanks for
as it correlates to the lot, just realize it's it might be another waiver you might need, or it might be more to it, but just double check that. And last but not least, 330 units. What can you do about it? That question came up at the previous hearing, and this is just more of a statement than a question. What can you do about it? And I'm not looking for an answer tonight, but it's I don't want to say it's the top of the hit parade, but it's up there. So that's all I have to say tonight, Mr. Chair. Man.
Thank you. Okay. What was that date? I said March 14th or 15th? When is it?
14th.
March 14th. Okay. If everybody all set? Okay,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank everyone for participating tonight. We'll take all the comments into consideration, and we'll certainly be back to try to address all of those comments that we can.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to continue this public hearing until March 14th at what time, Casey?
7:35.
7:35 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Archie?
Yes.
Philip?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, good night. All right, general business. We have a request for a extension of a variance we granted last year for a six-month extension for 78 Conlin Ave. We got a letter, we got an email that came in requesting the continuation because they had trouble finding a contractor and getting the money lined up. So, but they have everything in place right now, so they're ready to go shortly. But they need an extension because the thing was granted about a year ago today. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to continue the variance granted for 78 Conlin Ave. Is that what it was? Yeah, 78 Conlin Ave for 6 months.
So
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Roll call vote. Philip?
aye.
Archie?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Next thing on the general business, approval of the minutes from January 18th, 2024. If you haven't had a chance to look at them, you can look at them. If you've looked at them and you're ready to go, I'll entertain a motion.
Everybody read the minutes.
Yeah, I'm
Phil?
all set. with 'em.
Megan?
All set.
Yep, Brenham.
Mr. Chairman, I can make a motion to accept the minutes for Thursday, January 18th, 2024.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion, no omissions or additions? Hearing none, the vote will come on the minutes. Chair votes yes. Philip?
Yes.
Archie?
Yes.
Okay, I think we actually have a new hearing on March 14th. That'll be before this one, so, with this continuation. But anyway, if anybody's left that was here, thank you for coming. Thanks for the help. And I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn, non-debatable. All those in favor, roll call vote. Archie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Philip?
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice night.
Good night.
Good night,
Thank you. Right.